Hello, I'm Diane Trees. Florida voters overwhelmingly passed Amendment 2. It gives huge power to Florida's Department of Health and the state legislature, who must make the rules and regulations. Joining us now is Louis Rotundo, a longtime lobbyist representing the marijuana industry and the Florida Medical Cannabis Association. Louis, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
What's the difference now with Amendment 2 passing in medical marijuana? What's the difference than, say, 6 months ago? We had Charlotte's Web.
The problem that is the expectations of the public. The law that we passed in 2014 was Charlotte's Web, so-called Charlotte's Web. The amendments and the new law that we passed in 2016 authorized full-blown cannabis for terminally ill people. Now the public has spoken, and we have a new constitutional amendment which allows for additional illnesses to utilize that drug without the requirement to be terminally ill. So in some ways we've taken another measured step. In some ways we are looking at trying to fit a new architecture into an old program.
With this amendment, it really gives a lot of power to the Department of Health and to the state legislature. Have those proceedings, rules, regulations, implementations, when will we start to see?
We have been fortunate that the timelines outlined are very tight but doable, and we've seen the Department of Health take the first step just this week by issuing their new rule for implementation. Now, the legislature, of course, cannot do anything until they meet in March, April, and I anticipate we will see some additional action through them.
With your perspective, the stakeholders that you represent, what are the expectations you have? What do you think the state legislature is going to do for clarification and implementation?
There's a great debate in the legislature right now about whether we should expand the existing system consistent with the constitutional amendment's intent, or whether we should leave it as it is for a more tightly defined regulatory structure. I think that the legislature is torn right now between those two choices, the back to the square peg and the round hole example, that we've come along with a system now that we're trying to fit into something that's already operating, and some pieces are going to be very easy to do. Some of them are going to take a little bit of pushing and shoving in the legislative process.
So what you're saying is the structure that's already in place, you're referring more towards what they had decided with Charlotte's Web, and now with the expansion under Amendment 2, whether they fit that into existing structure or whether they're defining or interpreting, because the amendment is so wide open.
Correct. The constitutional amendment was very broad, and it can be interpreted in several ways, and reasonable people can disagree about that interpretation, and I think that's what you're seeing already with the concerns expressed by the Amendment 2 folks that the department's new rule does not meet their intent.
With your perspective, what would you like to see happen? What would you like to come out of the state legislative session?
I would hope the legislature would continue doing what it has been doing. I think it's worked very well. We've taken some measured steps to avoid the errors that I think other states have made. I know that won't make everybody happy, but I think it's the safest thing for the citizens, because we're dealing with a drug, something you're going to ingest into your body, and the safeguards have to be there both for the efficacy of the drug and also for the delivery of the system and for the requirements for strict enforcement about who's handling this drug.
Louis, what do you think should be under state governments? And I know this is opinion, but what would you say should be state governance? What should be left up to local government, municipalities, and why?
Well, and that one I'm a little torn, because when I first spoke about this issue 3 years ago, I said the legislature better give us clear direction at the local government level, because this is a very controversial topic. It's less so now 3 years later. It seems the people have spoken, 70% say they want this. But the legislature doesn't always move as fast as perhaps public opinion. And so at this point in time, whether we keep retail regulations at the local level or whether we restrict it to the state level is a debatable issue. Frankly, I think the legislature will leave it at the local level under home rule powers. The problem you get into with that is that every local government has a different opinion of how this should be done. How do you run a statewide business based upon that? And if you say it's a dangerous drug, well, we don't have these requirements that I've heard floated about for CVS or Walmart or Walgreens. So what makes this a unique circumstance that we should treat it differently than other drugs?
You made a point too with the location of where these dispensaries might be placed, and that could be all over the place depending on if it's local governance or state governance. And I believe there are only 7 licensed dispensaries right now.
Yeah. With only 7 licensees and 3 more pending in court cases, which may be resolved very shortly, with those few, if you gave each one of them 1 dispensary in each of the 67 counties, that would be 67 times 10 retail outlets. The situation we have right now, though, I think is very dangerous for local governments. What we have right now is that nurseries are delivering by car in your residential neighborhood, and no one even knows they're there. That is a recipe for a robbery or for an accident to occur that may have put the drug into the wrong people's hands.
And that's because it's cash.
It's a cash business.
It's a cash business. Okay, I read an article, and I thought this was interesting, talking about an increase in costs for the implementation of Amendment 2. One of them was law enforcement, extra security regulations, and the enforcement of that. Do you think those costs will materialize, and who will pay for those?
Well, the regulations costs will be handled by the state through their licensing fee for when these nurseries come up for renewal. The local costs may end up being borne by the local government. It's just part of your home rule police powers. We don't know yet because the legislature hasn't clearly defined it. We're still in in many ways, we're in the infancy of a new industry. And so a little bit of this is feeling your way along. That's why I like the way the legislature's handled this with the measured steps and pushing this thing forward with an eye towards not repeating the mistakes other states have made.
What's your biggest concern moving forward here?
That 2 things, that people will get the idea that this is a cure-all drug that's going to somehow, if I can just get a dose of this, that it's going to make my whole life different. And that may not be so. We don't know. The medical tests have yet to determine that. We have anecdotal evidence of that, but we haven't seen the triple-blind studied tests, and the federal government's doing that now. Nor do we know the long-term ramifications of using the drug. The second thing I'm fearful of is that everyone is looking at this as a cash cow business, that somehow they're going to become multimillionaires. It's a very tightly defined business. And really, it should be about the patients. It should be about the medical necessity. The money aspect of it is just the come along with it that we all have to live with as part of a growth of a new industry.
Let me ask you, I think a lot of the conversation now that the amendment is passed, conversation is centered now on, is this a precursor for the passing of recreational marijuana in the state? Are you hearing that? What do you think?
That's a debate we've had in the legislature for the last 3 years. That's a debate that will go on probably for another 3 years. The short answer is we don't know. It may very well be that people will repeat the Colorado pattern, which is a significant spike in users, and then it drops back to a plateau. We just really have no feel for whether or not the one leads to the other. That is certainly a fear that many people have. I share that fear, which is an unusual place for me to be, but it's something we just can't predict.
So much uncertainty left with this, and we'll be looking forward to seeing what the legislative session brings about.
As will I.
Thank you so much for sharing your expertise.
It was my pleasure.
Thanks for joining us. Until next time, I'm Diane Trees.